Well, hello, great people. How is everybody today? I'm Gypsy Road, the host of the Paranormal Highway channel, and hopefully you're watching and subscribe, hit like, share. Lately, I've been doing my daily walks. Part of it is for medical reasons, and part of it is I like getting outdoors, listening to the birds, listening to the sound. And I want to talk about the topic of hair metal music, hair nation, whatever you want to call it. Hair music. First of all, the word hair music, it's kind of for me, I feel that it's a little disgraceful to use that word, hair metal, hair nation, because bands in the 70s all had hair, starting from the late 60s and up, and to say it's like you're shooting down a genre where the music has done so much to the music community, and I feel that the 80s rock never truly got the full credit it deserves. I mean, it's almost impossible for a lot of these bands to even make the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, let's be honest. How long did it take Def Leppard to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? How long did it take, Bon Jovi got in on the second try. He got in pretty easy, but I guess you could say he could have got in sooner. I mean, Kiss should have got in way sooner than when they got in. Now, they were in the 70s, so I mean, but they were still part of the 80s. If you want to call it glam rock, you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, that's up to you. I call it rock and roll music because that's exactly what it was, rock and roll music. And I don't think a lot of people truly understand, what I grew up in the 80s. Okay, so you want to call me an 80s kid, you can call me whatever kind of kid you want. I grew up in the 80s. Now, growing up in the 80s, where I grew up, now every city's different, every state's different, so whatever I'm explaining might not be the same for you. So for myself, growing up in the 80s, I grew up in a town called Kerman, outside of Fresno. So the radio stations that we had growing up, the closest to rock music that you would even hear on the radio in the 80s, and this is no disrespect to any one of these bands, but the truth is, the closest to rock you ever going to get was maybe the Police. You could get the Cars, more new age at that time. Bryan Adams will be on the radio. John Cougar Mellencamp, before he's changed his name to John Mellencamp. You could get him on the radio. You could get Huey Lewis. But Adam Ant. I mean, there's Duran Duran. Those are about the closest. And that's the closest you would get on the radio. I mean, bands that started out like punk, let's be honest, Go-Go's actually started out as a punk band, but when they got on the radio, their music went to pop. Blondie toned down her punk music to more pop, but that was the only way you were ever gonna get on the radio. So, and people gotta remember, not everybody had cable TV. Cable TV was like a luxury. It was expensive, so not everybody had MTV. So the only way you really heard outside music where I live is through older kids, word of mouth. And I think because radio was boring to me. I mean, I love music. I gotta understand, when you don't have cable TV and stuff, in the 80s, you were outdoors, and your music mostly came from whatever somebody brought over. And here I'm standing up If some of you are new here, that's called the Devil's Hand. I just thought I'd stand here and talk to you guys a little bit. So music was really what somebody brought over. And I still remember my brother friends, they're coming over and they had cassettes. In our days, we had cassettes. You know, nobody walked around with records. People had records, but the records were in houses. But so most kids, all my age, all had cassettes. And I remember seeing Def Leppard's Paramania album, and I'm like, what's this? Because like I said, you never heard none of this stuff on the radio. And I remember putting on the Def Leppard tape, and the very first song, Rock Till You Drop. And I was like, holy shit, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Rock music that had like steroids with punch in it. You know, a little punch. And they had some some Kiss records, Kiss tapes, which, I mean, Kiss was more in the 70s. But I remember listening to Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over. I'm like, this is the stuff. Because growing up, even in Kermit, you know, I remember the first time I ever seen Kiss was on TV with their movie, Phantom of the Park. I still love that movie. I don't care what the band says. That's a fun movie. But that's about, you know, that was about it, you know? And I remember they had like some AC/DC. Like, God damn, this is the fucking music. But you never get to hear it on the radio. I mean, that was just, nowadays you can hear anything on the radio. You know, you just punch it on your phone. You can hear whatever you want. You know, and so you know, so that's when I got stepping into the world of metal music. You know, listen to Judas Priest for the first time. You know, Living After Midnight. You know, songs. You Got Another Thing Coming. I mean, it's like a whole new world opened up to like the perfect music. You know, rock with a punch. Nothing against Bryan Adams and those people. Hey, Bruce Springsteen's respected, but it wasn't for me. I wanted to rock. And I remember one of my first concerts that I ever went to. The first concert, I'm talking about arena level, was, I'm trying to remember, I can't remember if it was I think it was 87. Was Rat Dancing Undercover tour with Poison opening up for them. And then, because I remember we barely got some cable TV, like for the first time ever, and putting on MTV first time ever. And you also got to remember, during that time for MTV, the only time you even heard hard rock, glam rock, whatever you want to call it, was Headbangers Ball. It wasn't on the regular rotation. So Headbangers Ball was like on like at midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't remember. Headbangers Ball and 120 Minutes, which is alternative music, which is another form of rock music in my opinion. So, and a lot of times if you're too tired, but when you're a kid, you can stay up all night. We had, you have VHS. Some people had a Beta. Beta was just a smaller tape as a VHS. So you put it in and you would record it. So next day you could just go over and like listen to music, sing "Shook Me All Night Long." I know that song's overplayed now, but back then, you know, when you find it, you know, you're not hearing it over and over again, because first of all, it was never being played on the radio. So every time you heard these songs, it was like for the first time. You know, so, and I remember right before the Rat concert, I saw a Poison video, and it was for the song "Cry Tough." And this was the beautiful thing about going to concerts, because when I heard "Cry Tough," I'm like, Cry Tough, you know. You gotta be tough. You know, I'm like, okay, try tough. If you guys got the album, Look What the Cat Dragged In, you'll see what I'm talking about. Because right now it's sounding like I'm dissing, kicking poison. But I want you guys to hear this first. So Rat dancing in the cover. I remember the build up because first of all, going to a hard rock, you want to call it glam or not, back in those days, you were tough. Because that music was not liked by people. I mean, it was considered devil's music. I mean, not like nowadays. I mean, people are like, well, a lot of people don't like no, you don't understand. Schools look down on you if you wore shirts of these bands. So a lot of people, like I said, there was zero respect for the music. Zero. So going to a Rat concert, you had your chest up. It was almost like telling the world, fuck you. Have your little Madonna. Go have a picnic with the police. You know, have your tea. You know, and go to bed by 10. Put the blankets on. Have your little comfort. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, you're going to Rat. You know, it was like sleazy. You know, I know it's hard for younger people to understand that music was more passionate with people in our days, because music was your life. Going to concerts, like every concert was like an event. Especially, you know, living in Fresno, you know, Kermit in Fresno, because a lot of bands don't come to Fresno. And if you want to go to LA, 4 or 5 hour drive, San Francisco, 2 to 3 hours, you know, and a lot of bands at that time skipped Fresno. So when you had a band coming to Fresno, it was like the circus is coming to town. It was the biggest. So the night of the Rat concert, we all got together, and we all like remember, I had to ride with other people. I was only 13 or 14. I was in junior high school going to a Rat concert, where Rat was mostly high school and above. So I was a junior high kid going to a Rat concert, and me and my buddy who was in my grade were like the only 2 kids in my whole junior high going to a Rat concert. So it was a big deal on so many levels. So we all, and back in those days we could ride back in trucks. So we all got back of a truck, and we were driving down there, and I'm not supposed to say this. There might have been certain kind of drinks, maybe we were supposed to have, but certain kind of drinks that well, I would say helped you get warmed up to a show. And you're like, at that age, wow, you know, hey, it's all you knew. Hey, listen, I had 2 bigger brothers and 1 father, no mom. So we did kind of whatever we wanted. So luckily we came out of the teenage years alive, but we did. And I remember going down to Selden Arena, Fresno, Selden Arena. And we all get back in the truck. We're all getting warmed up. And then I remember pulling up to Selden Arena. And for me, that was the first time seeing an arena. Like, I was like, this thing is the biggest thing I have ever seen in my life. And my God, I remember walking inside that arena for the first time, seeing everybody dressed like you, tour shirts, leather. I mean, it was like homecoming. Like it was almost like I found my people. I mean, these are my people. I don't know how you can explain it, but it was like I'm finally surrounded with people that think the same way as me. So this concert was like an event. It brought everybody together. And I remember, now, going back to Poison. Poison was the opening act. So, and then, like I said, the only song I ever heard from Poison was Cry Tough. And that song, it was nothing special. Gotta be honest. Then they come out on stage. Look What the Cat Dragged In song. It was like, holy shit. I mean, the music, the lights, Bret Michaels blew me the fuck away. Look What the Cat Dragged In. I Want Action. I mean, because I didn't hear I Want Action. I didn't know Look What the Cat Dragged In. Because all I heard was Cry Tough, because they were a brand new band. And so the first band I ever seen in my life was Poison. And again, never judge a book by its cover. Never. Because if you look at the cover, yeah, I guess you could say they could look like girls. I don't care. But when you hear their fucking music live, they will blow you away. I mean, it was the best opening act I've ever seen. Going to any concert I've ever went back to. Poison was just fantastic. And I seen Poison open up for David Lee Roth on a Skyscraper tour in Fresno. And I still go back to when they opened up for Rat. Maybe because they were the first act I ever seen on stage. And maybe that's going to be ingrained with me forever. And then, of course, Rat came on. Now, Rat gets the bigger stage. Gets the bigger lights. And it was just like loud. It was just awesome. I mean, Bobby Blitzer on the drums, Martini on it. I mean, it was the original band. It was like, it was just, it took you to a whole new world. It really did. And I wish people would understand that, glam rock, rock and roll, hair miz, whatever you want to call it. There's the tapes, and then there's the live. So sometimes if you listen to a song on tape, you don't get it until you hear that song live. There's some songs that are just meant to be live, and they sound better live versus a tape. Or, of course, and there's songs that are just better on a tape. But I mean, being a 14, 13-year-old kid, I was in heaven. I mean, it was heaven. It was just so awesome. And I remember getting the Rat Dancing on the Cover tour shirt. And I remember going to school the next day. And I'm telling you guys, other people looked at you and like, because me and my buddy were talking about, oh, what a concert, the guitar solos, the drums, the sing, we were like, and they're all looking at you like you went to a devil's event, a demon, talking about Satan or something. I mean, I'm truly, because the music hasn't really crossed over yet. So back then, the preppy kids, they looked down on you like you were garbage. I'm serious. They looked at you like you were trash. And when music finally was crossing over, it actually, everybody has different opinions and stories on what songs really kind of like bridge the gap, where it kind of allowed these snot-nosed preppy kids and all that to jump over and like, this stuff is great. Like they heard for the first time when you've been listening for years before them. I think Poison, Every Rose Has Its Thorn, that ballad kind of like it crossed over to regular radio. like top 40, and then of course then Def Leppard's Pour Some Sugar on Me just took it over the top. I mean, it just opened up the floodgates. Top 40. So all these people who were New Kids on the Block fans and all that all start becoming like they were like metalheads, right? And you could tell the ones who were not true metalheads in the music, they weren't there from the beginning. But hey, listen, it's like, come aboard. We welcome you, because music is international. You know, come on board. You know. The thing is, metalheads were the coolest people in the world. They're like, come on, yes, this. Okay, you got to buy this tape. You got to buy this tape. It was like finding telling people, like the music that's always been great. Go back and get the Kiss Rock and Roll album. You know, it was real rock and roll. You know, and then there's you know, and then at the time, you know, a lot of people actually during the 80s knew the Brian Johnson AC/DC. And a lot of people, a lot of the newcomers didn't know that AC/DC had another singer, Bon Scott. Like, dude, you gotta listen to, like I was telling them, like, for me, and to this day, one of the top 5 hard rock metal music ever is Highway to Hell with Bon Scott. They're like, that's AC/DC? You know, so it was like for a lot of people going back. That's little steep. I'm gonna go another direction. So for a lot of people, it was like bringing them in. So it was really like Poison and Def Leppard songs like really broke it over, and bands like Bon Jovi and them all like had success because the crossover has been created. So bands like Bon Jovi with Living on a Prayer, which those were their like third album. And this is the best thing about how music was back in those days. It was like record companies allow bands to, you know, start their craft. What does that mean? It means that they didn't have to come out with a 10 million record sell right off the first album. They had time to build up, because Def Leppard Paramania was the third album, you know, until where that exploded. You know, Back in Black with AC/DC, that was like 6 albums later with a new singer. But a lot of these bands had to like earn their stripes. Bon Jovi Sleeping When Wet was like their third album. So a lot of bands had to come out with, like, is it independent or smaller labels, doesn't matter. You know, they had to like build where it was like their third and fourth album. You know, Aerosmith was huge in the 70s, and then I'm not going to go through the history of Aerosmith, and then they kind of died out. And then, you know, they came back strong with Vacation, you know. But, I mean, sometimes, you know, it could be their third and fourth, fifth album. Of course, nowadays, if you do get signed with some kind of record company, you have to hit it big right off the bat or you're out. You didn't have the opportunity to start building your craft. And that was the beautiful thing about music in those days, that when you're a new band, you're just like discovering each other, like in a lot of ways, you know, and going live, playing all these concerts, being in the opening acts, learning on your craft, you know, getting it big. So, you know, then the Bon Jovis got, you know, they got huge. All these bands got huge. You know, there's some bands that got huge and they kind of died out. Sadly, like Quiet Rice started off very strong and then just went off the cliff. Even when metal was at its peak, some bands did crash. Twisted Sister started out strong and then they kind of just crashed for whatever reason. You know, I mean, there's different reasons. Some people say, well, the music didn't involve with them. You know, it's each of their own on why some bands survived. You know, some bands didn't survive during when it was at its peak. But because of them having these third or fourth albums. Because Every Rose has its thorn for Poison's number one, the first number one song they ever had. That was their second album. That wasn't off their first album. So it's like all these bands get it. And when they created that pathway, it allowed all these other bands, and then radio stations started playing the music, and then they're like, hey, there's more great songs than just Every Rose, Pour Some Sugar on Me, Armageddon, Nothing But a Good Time. I mean, so many bands, and allowed the radio stations to start playing the rock besides just the ballads. I mean, Pour Some Sugar is not a ballad, but a lot of times bands had to make a ballad just to be able to compete with the soft music that was out there. And and the albums only had maybe one or two ballads. It's not like they made a whole album of ballads, but it was their way to be irrelevant, to stay in the game, and which I fully understand. And a lot of bands in the later 80s, with a lot of the hard work, and there's so many bands that did the hard work. I know it sounds like I was just talking more about like Poison and Def Leppard and stuff. There's a lot of bands, and like one of the first albums I have ever bought in my life. I was living in a shithole apartment village that was there for illegal aliens from Mexico to live, so they can transition. My family lost everything, so we had to live there, which was the best time of my life because I learned real Spanish culture. Because I felt like we were living in a Mexican village. One of the best times of my life. And my apartment complex was connected with an auction. So every Sunday I heard mariachi music, auctions, selling, and the people bet, bet. You know what I mean? Like they talk like so quickly to sell stuff, And I remember on one of my VHS tapes of Headbangers Ball, I remember Cinderella Shake Me song was on there. I go, I like this. It's like he's got like an AC/DC voice. I really like this. And at that time, I wanted my own band. You know what I mean? I mean like Def Leppard, Kiss, AC/DC, Motley Crue. All those bands were already picked by people at their exact age level when they discovered music, right? So a lot of this music I was discovering was after the fact. Not that many years, but people were with Judas Priest from the beginning. You know what I mean? And I remember I had like $6 in my wallet, just $6. I was a kid. All I had was $6. That $6 was the world to me. I remember going into the auction. And they were selling cassettes for $5. And there it was, Cinderella Night Songs. I go, oh, I know this band. So I'll Shake Me on there. And I looked at it, and the guy's like, this is brand new. They just came out a couple months ago, like a brand new band. They just came out. They just came out. I'm like, I'm gonna check it out. I remember buying the Cinderella Night Songs. And that first song, Night Songs, blew me a fuck away. I'm like, this is my band. Cinderella is my band. This is a true band. I can honestly say I was there from the beginning. Loved every song on that album. Somebody Saved Me, Nobody's Fool, Once Around the Ride. Nothing for Nothing. The album was just fucking kick ass. And the Cinderella's next album, Long Cold Winter, where I say to this day, one of the best intro to all songs, Bass Sinistrous. That little banjo guitar playing, that softness, that music that you hear like the places where I lived, with the Emirati music, there was banjos, there were all these instruments, and hearing that song too, right before falling apart from the seams, it was like heaven. It was heaven. Oh, and that Heartbreak Station, and they're one of the most underrated albums ever, Still Climbing. Such a great fucking album, but the grunge era hit, and we'll get to the grunge era. We'll get to the grunge era. So Cinderella was my band, and one of the things that did drive me crazy about media is, it was really like 88, 89, where Guns N' Roses really exploded with Sweet Child of Mine. Even though Welcome to the Jungle was their first song, but that song was not a real hit. It was a hit, but wasn't like a hit like what Sweet Child of Mine did. And they were huger than life. And every time people talk about like one of the most true bands of the 80s that was real was Guns N' Roses. Listen, Guns N' Roses is a good band. But Guns N' Roses would not have been Guns N' Roses if it wasn't for the crossover songs that Poison did, Def Leppard did, all these bands did, that bridged the gap to top 40, bridged the gap where hard rock music wasn't just being played on Hey Bangers Ball. It was actually in regular rotation all day long on MTV. So Guns N' Roses, when they came in, they benefit from all that. I'm not saying it was easy for them, because you still had to create good music, but it wasn't hard for them either, because it was already crossed over. Because listen, I mean, I can't prove this, because a good album is a good album. But if Appetite for Destruction came out in 83, 82, when that gap wasn't bridged yet, would it have been that big of a seller? I still think they would have got cult status if they came out during that time. But Guns N' Roses benefit from all the hard work that the hard rock metal bands did in the 80s. They really did. They really did. I don't know if they'll ever admit that or not, but they truly did. It was like I said, it was like a lot. It was like an easy road. Easy road. Even after Appetite first came out, it took almost a year. And then of course, Sweet Child of Mine just caught on and was played everywhere. But again, that was because of the help of all the early rock bands on what they did. So I don't think people understand how, you want to call it hair nation, hair metal, whatever you want to call it. If it wasn't for hair metal, the crossover, it would have taken maybe another 10 or 20 years. I really honestly believe that. It was them that put the groundwork in. And I see people bash ballads all the time, but if it wasn't for Every Rose, like Pour Some Sugar on Me, a lot of these bands would have probably died out sooner, because the revenue would have strung up, and you got to feed your family, right? So a lot of these bands deserve more credit than they deserved. So Guns N' Roses really benefit from the earlier bands. Again, you still have to create a great album, which they did. But then you start thinking about it in the long run. Guns N' Roses only really have Appetite for Destruction. They had their EP. And they had their Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. That's basically it. Yeah, I know they had that Spaghetti Experience album, but that was the band broken up. But even when Guns N' Roses is still playing, they don't create music. And I always wonder, are they afraid? Do they not feel do they just feel they got lucky? And they don't want to try to ruin their track record? And to me, Who cares? They could come out with an album and it could be bad. It doesn't take away what they did in the past. Okay, then here comes the 90s, right? Hold on, and let's give credit where credit is due. The whole Van Halen thing with David Lee Roth quitting the band was actually had another band making music under Van Halen's nose. For them, get another singer, and then they get Sammy Hagar. The most beautiful, perfect fit you can ever do when you have the status of a David Lee Roth that left the band. I mean, and to this day, people always ask me, so Eric, if you had to pick one era of Van Halen with David or Sammy, I said every day Sammy. I said Sammy Hagar all the way. All the way. There's no doubt. Even though there's some beautiful music that was written with David, but Sammy's voice, to me, has always been better. Sometimes I get tired of listening to Van Halen album, hearing David, just Sammy's voice. And if you ever, I saw David Lee Roth with Van Halen and Sammy Hagar, and night and day, people. Sammy Hagar's voice is so superior to David. It's not even close. Not even close. And that's no disrespect to David. David is just not a great live singer. He's a studio singer. Like it or not, that's a fact. And Sammy and Eddie and the boys, Michael Anthony, Alex Halen, I mean, they never sounded better live with Sammy than with David. I mean, it was just like perfect harmony. I mean, it was literally seeing a brand new band, all that. Okay, and then, so I just want to say, and let's talk about one of the greatest things that Van Halen did when music in the 90s starting to change a little bit, right? Now, of course, Nirvana gets credit for the grunge and the death of metal music, I guess you want to say, and all that. But Soundgarden and Alice in Chains were out first, right? And one of the best things about when Sammy was with Van Halen, they're like, I like these Alice in Chains. They opened up Alice in Chains. If you didn't know this, Alice in Chains opened up for Van Halen. Alice in Chains opened up for Poison, right? And the thing is, it was awesome. Soundgarden was out there. I saw Soundgarden open up for Danzig, and it was awesome. Everything was coexisting. Now, and then Nirvana broke. And I think part of the thing that when music was changing, it wasn't because of the fans yet. To this day, I feel that the record companies like saw this new music, instead of really helping it coexist, they just pushed one aside and said, this is the new thing, we go with it. It's like one of the first times ever you saw where corporations, where money start to take over, where they're like, oh, this is the new thing, forget the old thing, where things could all coexist. Because I remember in the early 90s, before the death or whatever, I mean, I thought I was in heaven. Green Day's new album, right? Dookie was out. No doubt. Ska music, punk music. I mean, hard metal. I mean, metal music, grunge. I mean, it was like ska music. Ska was there. I mean, I was like, I'm listening to radio, all these bands. It was beautiful. I had, I thought I had my Motley Crue, I had my Cinderella, I had my Poison, Def Leppard, Judas Priest, Metallica. You had Metallica, and you had Green Day, the Alice in Chains, the Soundgarden. You had it all. Pearl Jam. But then it was like the radio, like the TV, I don't know, the TV stations and the money and power. And then they were just like pushing one music aside. It kind of like, it was like brainwashing you to say, why did I ever listen to this? This is it. You know, because a lot of people, I hate to say this, they get brainwashed very easily in the world. And it's like one of the first signs that I have seen people easily getting brainwashed, because I live in Seattle now. I moved to Seattle in the 90s. You know, I love Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath, Kiss, Poison, Def Leppard. I love all these music, and I love Nirvana, and I love Pearl Jam. I loved it all. It was all rock music. It was all guitar, bass, and drums. The basics. They all had it. You know, it was all rock and roll. It just, like the 60s started to change to the later 60s, the 70s. Music evolves. But I've never seen, like the first time in my life where I saw corporations taking a stand, and instead of accepting the new, keeping the old and blending it, they just crush and step on the old and stop playing the 80s bands on MTV, where I feel if they would have just kept going and with the new music, I feel we would have been way better off. But the problem is the people let the corporations win. But even though I liked Nirvana's music and I liked Pearl Jam, love Alice in Chains, but it did not take away my love for my Cinderella, seeing the Rat concert, Poison live. I saw Poison live like 4 times. Actually, I saw them 6 times. And Poison kicks fucking ass live. I just went to the stadium tour last year, and Motley, Def Leppard, and Poison, and Joan Jett. Fucking badass show. So it was like the first time in my life I really saw corporations push their power onto the people. And then, of course, at that time, you had 24 hours news. And it was just... And it was sad that fans let it happen. Not all. Not the true ones. But they let it happen. They let their minds like, oh, well, Rat, oh, that was a short time. Fuck no. Be fucking proud. Love that shit. Hey, I love music. I loved growing up to Johnny Cash, Dolly Parton, Willie Nelson, Alabama. I love the music, and I love what Garth Brooks did in the 90s. I love music. George Strait, no, Jimmy Buffett, the Beach Boys. I mean, all these, everything. It was all. I love music that has real instruments, real instruments. No fake studio beat. I love music where you create the beat. And it was just, to me, it was the greatest time of my life for music. Because, especially in the 80s, when you bought a ticket to a concert, people, when you bought a ticket, it was like 20, 30 bucks, and it was all general admission. So, if you want to go up to the front of the stage, you got to crawl yourself in there. You know what I mean? You could actually go see the band. It was all general admission. Nowadays, if I want to get to the front of the stage, I'm paying thousands of dollars. And now you got to worry if they're playing tracks. You know what I mean? So it's literally a whole different world out there. And what are you gonna do, right? What are you gonna do? Only thing I can say is be proud of the music you like. Be proud. Stick your chest up loud. Don't be embarrassed. because there was nothing embarrassing about it. Because during those times, in those 80s, everybody loved it. It's just now, some people are chicken shit. They're afraid. They are literally afraid to admit who they liked. I'm not afraid. I love it. I have Sirius radio in my car, and sorry guys, I'm walking up a hill, so I apologize that, you know, it sounds like I'm breathing, you know, a little heavier, because I'm actually going up a hill now. I said, just be proud. Don't ever be ashamed. Because one of the things, a lot of you older people, well, you're lucky that a lot of newer generation, it's not their fault. They're never going to experience is buying a general admission ticket and crawling through the crowd to get to the front. Now you gotta pay. You pay. And sometimes I've been to some concerts like with my daughter, and sometimes now it's not about the music anymore. Sometimes I feel like it's about the status. So when I see some of these concerts with some of these fans up front, because you have to pay like $1,000 now, they're not even true fans. They just have like rich daddies and mamas buy them a ticket, and they're doing it for status, not for the love of the music. I don't think people embrace the music like we did from the 80s. Look at that cool doggy. Hello. She's a good.
It's the hat. Hi.
Oh no, hello. So, I truly believe that the relationship between music and the people are different. Now, there are people that still have passion for bands, don't get me wrong. Look at all the fanatics, Swiftie fans. Oh my God. Seriously, Taylor Swift can take a shit in a box, and that shit in that box will sell for thousands of dollars. It would. It would. I'm telling you. It would. Her shit in a box will probably go for like over $10,000. A scientist will probably buy the shit to try to clone her. Way off topic, way off topic. But you get what I'm saying. So, don't be embarrassed what you like and what you love in life. Especially when you get older, you learn that life becomes shorter and shorter and shorter. To the point, sometimes in life, you don't know if this is your last day on this planet. And if it is, you know, if it is my last day on this planet, I'm gonna go out and listen to Cinderella Gypsy Road, music like that. I'll go out with a smile. You know, I'll go out with a smile. And hopefully my family has a smile for me too. So beyond that, people, just be true to yourself. And I want to hear more of you guys. What do you think? Well, what bands did you like? Did you have a connection to a certain band, music, and era? You know, like if you grew up in the 90s or 2000s, you know, what What was it for you? I really truly want to know, because by us talking about it, keeping music alive, and using music as more of an event than just a 30-second song on the radio, fast forward, boom, boom, TikTok, boom, 30 seconds, that song sucks, without even listening to a whole song anymore. Not, you know what I mean? It's different. So let me know in the comments. Leave a comment. Tell me, Eric, this is my favorite band. And no ever apologize for the music you like. Ever. And if people make fun of you, they're the ones that has a sorry life, not you. They're the ones gonna die unhappy. So beyond that, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you all, and have a good day.